I asked the people to the left, the guy and the girl, and I said, "Hey, where are you guys from?" The woman was from Australia. The guy's from London.
Mm.
The guy from London had an Italian accent. So I said, "What do you do for a living?" He's like, "Oh, I make a gelato." I was like, "Oh, interesting. How long are you on vacation for?" He's like, "1 month." I was like, "Wow. So you guys decided to meet up, go backpacking for a month?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "That's pretty crazy. You know, I work in finance. Most I could take is 2 weeks." So how'd you get into this gelato business? He's like, "Well, I come from Italy and I know how to make a good gelato. When I come to London, they know good gelato. So I thought maybe I'm going to make a gelato." So he opens up a store. Fast forward to today, or whatever, 5 or 6 years ago, he has 3 gelato spots. He has some partners, and now he can take a vacation for a month.
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, that's kind of crazy because I make really good pickles. And I know I make really good pickles. And I was like, look, I was still doing this for fun on the side. My wait list was growing. It wasn't 15 people anymore. At some point, it was 300.
Really? Damn.
300 or more. No, it was more. 600 people.
Wow.
3,000 jars. It was a 6-month wait list at its peak before I opened my store. But I was like, I make really good pickles. And like, this got the juices flowing. I was like, wait.
No pun intended.
Yeah, literally got the pickle juices flowing. And I was like,
gosh.
This guy is not only taking more vacation time than me, but he's chilling. You know, just doing something he loves. And I didn't think it was possible with food, right?
Yeah.
So that sparked this desire. So as soon as I got back from Peru, first thing I did was pickle. I was like, all right, let me go back to making pickles because I took a little pause because I was on vacation for 2 weeks. And simultaneously, I remember I was wearing this sombrero when I met the guy, right? So that's part of the reason why it's on the logo. So fast forward, I'm back home making these pickles, and we heard that I have a cousin in Canada. We already knew she was ill, not doing well. She's terminally ill, had brain cancer, and it came out of nowhere, right? So she had when she found out, she had 5 or 6 months left to live. So now fast forward, it's already towards the end of her life. I just got back from Peru. I just made those pickles, and my family's like, listen, her boyfriend proposed to her, just got married to her on her deathbed. She's got another week or so to live. We have to visit again. So I was like, all right, let's go. And I couldn't think of what to bring. But, traditionally, whenever we visit Canada, we bring lipioshki, we bring samsa. I was like, let me bring some pickles that I made, right? And also, for some reason, it was November, and I had a mustache. So I was wearing the sombrero, had a mustache. I didn't change my look at all when I came back from Peru. Everyone's like, Eddie, what's wrong with you? Dress normal. I was like, I don't know why, but I feel like I have to dress this way. So I showed up as a family to her. We all took a road trip together. And her name was Nufar, Chaya Nufar. And we're all eating. We're all sitting next to her bed. She had her own private room. And she's like, hey, whose pickles are these? And they're like, oh, it's Eddie's. And so I come over to her side. She's like, Eddie, these pickles. I don't remember the exact words, but I do remember her saying something. And basically she was saying that the pickles made her happy, right? And that they were really good. And I thought to myself, I said, wait, here's a person that's going to die. She ended up passing away the next week. She can eat whatever she wants. Her doctors say you can do whatever you want. There's no point, you're out. And she found joy in food. And it kind of reminded me of that experience I had as a professor. I was like, wait, I can make the world a better place with food, right? It's one thing if you're making food that's decent, right? Most people just eat food to get by. But when it's really good food, you ever eat something, you're like you just take a moment and you're like, what? Your whole brain gets rewired. You're like, what?
They call that a foodgasm.
Yeah. I felt like I was giving these foodgasms to people. And
with your pickles.
You ever see a grown man naked?
Have I ever seen a grown man naked? I think so. Probably.
Well, I can't even wear the hat with this. All right. I'll just keep it.
Oh, man.
It's all good in the hood.
The struggles of podcast life. Can't wear your hat while you're doing headphones. Okay.
Magnifique.
That's it, man. Eddie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. It's an honor to have you and your pickles
Yep.
join the podcast.
We have the sweet pickles and the pickle potion staring at us.
Fascinating. The pickle potion. Did you learn that at Hogwarts, or?
Exactly. Yep. I was on a mystical, magical journey, and it hit me. I got to start making pickle juice for people to make their own pickles.
That's interesting. Wow, I'm actually curious to hear the story. Like, how did this start?
I have a close friend from grad school that lives in Montreal, Canada. He doesn't have access to my pickles.
Wait, where?
Canada.
What's that?
Montreal.
No, I'm sorry.
Country. Yeah.
All right.
So it's the 51st state. And he's like, Eddie, I want to try your pickles. Obviously, I can't eat them because you don't ship them and you don't have them in Canada. Is it possible for me to make your pickles? I was like, okay. And the lights went off, and I was like, oh, snap. Let me do some research. So that conversation was about 3 years ago.
Wow.
And, 2 years ago, so a year later, I came up with it, like I perfected it, but it was still too early to release it because I was still a small business, like super small. I didn't have any audience yet. I didn't have an online presence. Like I wasn't able to sell online. I didn't know any of that stuff. So thankfully, now that I'm in a position to like where I'm more established, where it won't really impact my underlying product sales, my main products, then I released it.
Dude, I mean, somebody might like take the pickle juice and then make their own.
Yeah, that's something that's I was afraid of 2 years ago. But at this stage, I don't mind if people use my product, my pickle juice, to replace my pickles because I make a similar profit on that little jar as the actual pickles. Gotcha. So if they choose one over the other, I don't mind. What's good is that when you're like growing vegetables and stuff, you have your own tomatoes in your backyard at the end of the season that didn't turn red, or you have your own cucumbers, and you have like, people that grow plants, they always end up with way too many at the end of the season sometimes. So they don't know what to do with them. This is a great solution.
To make the pickle potion.
Yeah, to make
and
your
then
own
profit on it.
Yeah, make your own pickles. And what's good about it is that it lasts forever.
Wow, really?
Yeah, there's no refrigeration required. You just keep it on your scaff whenever you need it. Bloop.
Pickles at your convenience.
Yep, and it's cheap.
Okay, okay, give me 1 second. Let me just close that door. I just realized.
Nice. Keep the babikas out.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get into pickles, though? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, so that's a very long story. The short answer to it is that I'll say
you're on the podcast.
Yeah, I know. There's a short answer. There's a long answer. The short answer is that I'm obsessed with food.
Okay.
So I spend a lot of time cooking, more than most people, I'd say, unless they're professional chefs. And the thing is with chefs, most of what they do is they cook for someone else. They have to they don't create recipes. They're just replicating the same exact recipe over and over again. One thing that I have, that quality that I have, is that I cook for myself and also for my little brother sometimes. And I'm always creating a new recipe. Always.
Really?
Even if I'm making the same exact product, I'm changing it up a little bit. Ever since I was a kid, the first thing I created was hot dog chips.
Hot dog chips?
Yeah, so I was maybe 6 or 7 years old, slicing up hot dogs really thin, putting them on a pan with some oil, black pepper, cayenne pepper, like the actual cayenne pepper, and lemon juice until it was crispy on both sides. Amazing. Really good. If anyone ever wants to try it, recommend it.
I'll send the recipe to my wife.
Yeah, so that's a crowd pleaser. But that was when I was a kid. So imagine, decades of doing that. And so my aunts, they love cooking. They're obsessed with it. So does my mom. And one time I visited my aunt, and she had a plate of plov for me, and a pickle on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was working in finance. I had a great job. I had no intention of quitting anytime soon. And the pickle that was on the side of this plate was so good. And I was like, "Where'd you buy it?" She said, "I made it." I was like, "Okay, what's the recipe?" That's a normal conversation.
Okay.
That I've had many times with my aunts. I've FaceTime them how to make plov. I've done so many different, how to make a sirchoy, chokimoki. You know that?
I'm not familiar.
You're not familiar? It's like a breakfast soup with milk, matzah. So this is the same type of conversation I've always had. The only difference is that with pickles, it's a very scalable product. You can learn how to make plov, but how far are you going to get with plov?
Right.
I mean, in theory, you could package it and freeze it and then ship it all over the country, which is, if someone wants to do that, it's a pretty good idea. You're welcome.
Like microwave plov.
Yeah, like Trader Joe's plov. Like they have the
dude. It's not a bad idea actually.
You're welcome. Whoever decides to take that, I should probably do it.
You should. Yeah, I don't know. Experiment with it if you have extra capital.
Yeah. So the problem with Bukharians when it comes to, I'd say most people when it comes to cooking, any old school mom, grandmother, is that when they're cooking, they're not measuring things by the grams.
Okay.
They're not even measuring by volume. They're just not glass. Yeah. Right. And
I'm curious. I kind of want to argue with you. I'm curious to hear like where you see the problem with that is.
The problem is making it consistent. So most people don't know this, but salt comes in many different shapes and sizes, right? So like if someone says, add a teaspoon of salt and in the recipe,
right.
Whenever you see volume in a recipe in regards to salt, it's a useless recipe, especially for pickling, because volume doesn't tell you anything. Because you can have a teaspoon of salt weigh 10 grams. You can have a teaspoon of salt weigh 2 grams, right? Because salt comes in different volumes. Because of the density of the salt, right. the way it's structured. Like flaky salt weighs much less for the volume, or really fine salt weighs a lot for the same amount of volume. So that's why sometimes you'll have a recipe and it just comes out way off, and you can't have consistency. So like if you ask a babushka to make like 100 batches of something pickled, they're not able to replicate it. So that's where I came in. That's what gives me a unique edge, is that I'm very calculated.
Gotcha.
Very exact.
Okay.
I use spreadsheets. I have a background in math. All my recipes are on spreadsheets, and I'm able to scale things and keep it consistent. I'm not a normal chef when it comes to that. It's like a mathematician plus chef combined. That's creative.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and that's what you need to be. Anyone in the food business knows how important it is, because when you decide to release a product, you need it to be food safe. When you want to make something food safe, you have to get it confirmed by food scientists. Food scientists are, third-party companies. They're not the U.S. government. They're usually like a university that has a science department. Rutgers, Cornell, they have food science department labs. And they will literally ask you for a gram-by-gram breakdown of your recipe. So when you actually do the recipe, it has to follow that breakdown.
Gotcha. So if you wanted to change your recipe, you wouldn't be able to?
You could, but you would have to ask for an update to it.
Gotcha.
And you have to pay for that update.
Oh, wow.
Because now they have to test that update. So you're sending another sample to a food scientist to test to make sure it's stable.
Gotcha.
That's why a lot of these amateur beef jerky people and stuff, they're kind of risking it, because they don't realize that, okay, you make a product 1,000 times, no one got sick. Do it a few more times, there's a chance someone can get botulism. They could get, right now there's a recall on eggs.
Really?
Right?
Well.
Yeah, there's a bad recall on eggs. That's why egg prices are crazy high because of bird flu. There's a recall on salmon right now because of listeria in Costco. So there's a lot of ways things can go bad that amateurs don't really know. That's why it's important to get your food checked by food scientists, and it has to be consistent. You can't gloss. You can't do that.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to understand for you. You were in finance, and then you switched to doing pickles.
Yeah.
Can you explain this to me and to your Bukharian grandparents?
Okay, so there's a good analogy that I like. That being poor is similar to being sick. When you're poor, all you think about is making money. And when you're sick, all you think about is being healthy. But once you're healthy, think about everything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a portion of your time is spent thinking about how to maintain that health, right? Like you go to the gym, you avoid microplastics these days. And with money,
you avoid eggs because of the bird flu.
Exactly. So with money, once you have money, obviously you want to find a way to keep that money without losing it. But then you also want to think about other things. Now money's not the only goal, right? So most people spend their entire lives fishing for money. They don't realize they can't take that with them. That's not the people that actually do achieve that goal. It's often at the expense of doing what they love. It's too late. So the normal story that I notice that most people go through is that they have a dream, they put it off to the side, they do a job that they're not happy with for the money because they want to have that prestige, they want to have a nice car, they want to have a nice apartment, they want to get married, or maybe they don't want to get married, they just want to have a partner. Then once they have that partner, they have kids and they're busy. They don't have time for anything. Most people. And now you have to pay it forward. Now it's not about you. It's fulfilling to have kids, obviously, and I'm not against it. And I definitely want to have kids of my own one day. But that's the normal story. And I think that might have to do with why there's so much depression, why there's people that resort to drugs, because there's no, like when you don't have a purpose, you try to find feelings of euphoria through other means, So where was I going with this?
Leaving finance for pickles.
Yeah. So pickles. How did I get into the pickles? How did I decide to leave finance? So the main there was a few things that were important. I mentioned earlier that pickles were scalable. So when I first made my own batch of pickles using my aunt's recipe, thing is she didn't give me an exact recipe. She gave me a and when I tried creating it, it came out bad. Pickle. It wasn't a pickle. It was some kind of cucumber salt. Maybe it wasn't even that salty. Something was off. My dad tried it. He's like, "Solni khatayet," right? The old Bukharian. Yes, the only variable Bukharian men know is if there's enough salt or no salt. Baksh, they'll like throw it at you like just solni khatayet.
It's too funny.
So yeah, what was I saying?
My family, we say something else. We say it like vodka and khvatait, we gotta
exactly.
Yeah.
So so I created this pickle recipe, recreated it. So with a lot of trial and error, eventually I made a pickle recipe that was unique. It was different because not only did I try having her a similar consistency to my aunt's, I started adding my own
Right.
spices because she said, add your favorite spices, do this, do that. So I ended up adding my own unique spices and my own unique technique and proportions and stuff. And I wrote it down, which is different from what other people do, right? They just shoot in the glass. And I wrote, like, it was more of a
Science.
it was an iterative process, right? Like, okay, this is a little bit too much vinegar. This one's a little bit too salty. This one needs a little bit more timing with age. And little by little, I was approaching this really good pickle. And then eventually, I made an Instagram video where I crunched into it and I posted it in my story. And I had so many people message me saying that it wasn't possible that a pickle could be that crunchy.
Really interesting.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm down, let you try some. Come over. And I wasn't trying to sell it. I was making plenty of money. A whole bunch of friends, neighbors came over, tried the pickles, and they said they were obviously really happy with it, and they wanted another order. What ended up happening? Since the pickles took about a week to marinate, I made a wait list. I said, okay, you guys wait 1 week. I have 15 people that want the pickles now. Wait till next Sunday, and I'll have pickles for you. So then I had those 15 people came. I messaged them, hey guys, I have your pickles. Or I texted them, I'll drop it off. Right? Because I was so excited for people to try these pickles. I was dropping it off, and I charged $5.
Nobody's tried your pickle before. So.
Yeah, I didn't want to lose money. I was like, I'll charge you $5, right?
Yeah.
Break even. I wasn't trying to make money off this.
That's really fascinating, honestly. Yeah, wow.
So I did that. What happened? Those people were like, I'll take 3 more jars. I'll take 4 more jars. They told their friend. They posted on their story. I finally got the pickles. What's good about the Bukharian community is that we're very, very jealous people. We, whatever a Bukharian is eating, we want to eat that same thing. Whatever Bukharian is wearing, whether it's a macaj jacket, a spider jacket, you name it.
Yeah.
Bukharians are very jealous people, which is a good thing if you run a business.
Yeah.
You know, if someone has a sufganiot with pistachio, now everyone wants that sufganiot, right? Because how can you not have it? You're having a wedding in Dami Kililagio. I want a wedding in Dami Kililagio.
So everyone's doing it.
Yeah. So that's so most people would, most young people say they hate that we're so jealous. But there's people that hate, there's people that love, and then there's people that profit. So if you can find a way to take advantage of that quality in our people, right, then you're benefiting. You're not a person that hates a quality. You embrace it, right?
You embrace it for profit. It's genius. I love it. That's going to make a great clip.
Yeah.
There are people that hate, people that love, and people that profit.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's very interesting. It sounds like you got into it for the passion and you were liking the making of the pickle.
Yeah. I was still, up until that point, I was still doing it for fun. I wasn't taking it seriously. Like, why would anyone want to quit a good job?
A serious question though. How did you have time to do this for fun with finance job?
So I had good hours in finance, but I wasn't doing it during the week.
Okay.
This was a strictly Sunday activity. So
that's the first time I've ever heard anyone say good hours in a finance job, by the way.
I had a perfect job. It was really good job. Relatively speaking, for finance, it was good. For normal people, it wasn't good hours. Like I was in there around 8 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And I was out of there by 6:30, 6:20. That's about 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. Lunch break, you eat at your desk, right? But at the same time, you're surrounded by coworkers that are just really funny, smart people. So it doesn't really faze you. And the problem with that was commute. So you're commuting 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back. So essentially, you're waking up 6 a.m., getting dressed. You're finally home 7:15-ish. So 12 hours of your day, essentially. 12, 13 hours of your day, 5 days a week is just work. But your weekends are free. My nights were free. Was I exhausted? Yeah, sometimes.
Gotcha.
But pickles Sundays.
Just on Sundays. I'm curious though, what can you say to people that have similar working hours to you, working I'll be honest, I work much less than that as a therapist. Happens to be being a therapist can sometimes be a very draining job just because you're like sitting with people. It could be heavy. But in general, I have so much more free time than that. And I don't know. I'm not thinking about starting a side business, I mean, happens to be I have a podcast. But aside from the podcast, like what can you say to people that are struggling with working long hours and then feel like they don't have time? Like, how did you pull it off?
Well, I didn't think I was working long hours. That was part of it.
Dude, that's what's shocking to me. You don't feel like you're working long hours. 8:30 to 6:30. You were saying that's 10 hours a day, right?
8 to 6:30, yeah.
That's a long time.
Well, when you come from working, when you go to grad school, where you're working from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, 6 days a week, and then you have a job that cuts those hours in half, then it's it feels, and also relatively speaking, people in other jobs, that make good money, they work similar hours. Like whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, someone in finance, all the most difficult jobs that have a hazing element, especially when you're younger, they require long hours.
Dude, this is so interesting. And do you know Dr. Matthew Walker?
No.
Okay, so he wrote this book called Why We Sleep.
Mm.
Fascinating person, and whatever. He's one of the leading science experts on sleep and sleep science. So he talks about med school and how there's a lot of hazing in med school going on. Like the residency is crazy. Like the shifts are insane, and that's why they have where he goes through all these studies about how America specifically, because I think in European countries they do it differently. Like America has the highest rate of accidents during procedures because of residency students and their crazy shifts.
Yeah.
And the suicide rate is higher. A bunch of things are much higher in American med school students versus other places. And it's crazy that like we just live in a culture where it's so normal and it's not talked about. I don't know, man. I don't really have a question for you on that, but I'm curious if you have thoughts.
No, it's true. Unfortunately, and fortunately, the U.S. is a place with A players, and hate it or love it, we do have the best doctors in the world, and in order to be on that level, you need to be hazed.
You think so?
Yeah,
Really?
100%. Right. If you can't handle the hazing, you don't belong. Right. And the hazing doesn't start when you start working. The hazing starts
In school.
in high school. Right. Like, are you a student getting a 90 plus GPA with high SAT scores, versus are you someone that just likes, matching your shoes with your shirt and, making friends with attractive people that won't go far in life. So, yeah.
You see merit to the system. You see merit to the system.
To this current existing system, yeah, I think people just have to suck it up. Yeah. Does it suck for people? Yeah, temporarily. If it was like a lifelong thing,
Right.
then yeah, that would be slavery. But I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Investment banking, for example, they have 100-hour weeks. At the end of the day, you end up earning less than a McDonald's employee.
Really?
Hourly, yeah. In a lot of these jobs, especially the first few years. But long term, it's worth it, right? You kill it. I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I spend a lot more time working right now. The way I work is different, though. Like, I'm not slaving behind a desk,
right,
on a laptop all day, right? I don't have to fake who I am all day, right? I don't have to dress a certain way all day. I can just dress however I want. And one of the things I used to think about when I was working in finance was that I had a boss that was pulled in from Goldman Sachs. Great guy. Very hard worker. Guy was making over $1 million a year.
Oh, wow.
For sure. No question. In order to poach someone from Goldman Sachs, he wasn't quitting Goldman Sachs. they approached him like, hey, we want you. I was working for a Spanish bank called Santander. We want you to work for us. We'll pay you over $1 million a year. We want you to take this team that's currently in this bank, double its revenue per year, double its profit. And he came over, and he was working the same hours as me. And he ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner in front of his desk. And he was making $1 million a year. And I thought to myself, is this what I want when I'm, 40 years old? Do I want to be making $1 million a year, 45 or whatever he was, but staring at a computer screen for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And when his wife would call, she was never in a good mood. She was always like, whatever his name, please. Right? She wouldn't say, hi, how are you? Always very pissed. And after I quit, I found out a year later he got divorced. So,
Yikes.
It happens. That's what happens. People focus too much on money.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to life than money.
Right.
So that's another part of the journey. So there's a few key components that got me out of finance to pickles. One of them was an experience where I was. First of all, there's this concept called ikigai. You're probably familiar with it.
It sounds familiar.
It's a Japanese thing where the perfect job has 4 key components. I'm sure you could guess at least one of them. What's
work-life balance? I don't know.
Yeah, not really.
Well, good enough money, I would guess.
Good money.
Okay.
Money. So money's
Enjoyment.
one. You find it fun.
Yeah.
You're good at it. That's the third one. And the fourth one is
Pickles.
kind of. You make the world a better place.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so it's something meaningful.
I probably could have guessed all 4 if I was thinking about it, but yeah.
Yeah, so those 4 things, in fact, it doesn't really impact your work-life balance. If it's meaningful and you enjoy it and you're having fun, it's an enjoyable job, right? So it's a good job.
Yeah.
So those 4 things, I had 3 of them in finance. I'm sure you could guess what they were. I was making good money. I was fun. I was good at it. The 4th one wasn't so meaningful. And
why, you didn't find making rich people even richer a meaningful job?
It wasn't really making rich people richer. It was making companies. I was protecting companies from risks. So it wasn't making them richer. It was just preventing them from getting poorer.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't so meaningful. It wasn't meaningful at all. And I kind of woke up to that because I was given an opportunity to teach a semester at Queen's College. And basically one of the requirements is you need a master's degree. So I was an adjunct professor in discrete math, which is a math for computer science.
Interesting.
Discrete is not the same as discrete. It's spelled differently. So there's discrete
okay, right.
And there's discrete where it's incremental.
I'm dyslexic, so I wouldn't be able to tell the difference, honestly.
Yeah. So there's ETE at the end versus EET. So discrete math, EET, or maybe one of them. So discrete math is math for computer science, like puzzles, games. It's a great class. And I started teaching this class after work twice a week. I left a little bit early, like 30 minutes early. This is before the new boss came in.
Okay.
And I remember the first class, I felt something I haven't felt ever in finance. It was a feeling that I was making the world a better place. So I really, really captivated the classroom because I was teaching them about puzzles that helped me get my first job that got me over 6 figures.
Okay.
And I said, basically I asked this puzzle question to the classroom.
Can you tell me the question? I'm curious.
It has to do with 50 switches and 50 light bulbs.
Okay.
And, a person walks through the room, turns every light on, every switch on. So all of them are on now.
Okay.
Then he turns the second, the fourth, the sixth, basically every 2, all the way through the 50th. Then goes back, turns on flips the 3rd, the 6th, the 9th, every 3, so on and so forth. The 4th, the 8th, so on and so forth. Okay. After the person goes through the light switches 50 times, is the 50th light bulb on or off? So I asked that question to the classroom, and everyone's like guessing yes, no, and I would say why. And then after,
So why wouldn't it have turned off by the even numbers if he turned off the second?
No, but you're going back to it, right? So like,
oh, but then he went back and
you go back to the switches, right?
Meaning the one that was off, then he turned it back on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
after you do that 50 times, is it on or off, right? So no one could get the answer right off the bat, right? Like they could get the answer, but they couldn't explain why, because they're just guessing. It's a 50-50 chance of guessing it right. And then I said, okay, what if I told you if you get this question right, you're going to start earning $120,000 tomorrow, right? And this was 10 years ago. No, this was not 10 years. This was 8 years ago when I was teaching this class. I was 24, 25. And suddenly the room was like bustling. Everyone's like taking their paper out. They're like, okay, so like, how do I do this, right? And we worked through it together as a class. And then I told them the follow-up question. I'm like, okay, so let's say the number of light bulbs and switches is 1,000,005. And you do it 1,000,005 times. Is it on or off? And everyone doesn't know how to answer that question, right? But I had to answer that question right on the spot during my interview, right? Wow. And I said, this class is what got me that job.
Really? Wow.
This class prepared me. And I explained to them that the answer was simple, that basically if you find a pattern, you're going to notice that the first light bulb is on, the fourth light bulb is on, the ninth light bulb is on. It's all the perfect squares. Because the perfect squares only have an odd number of integers, because the square is only one of the factors of that number. So you have, for example, 9 has 1, 3, 3, and 9 as its factors. So the 3 is only, you flip the switch once. So you put it on, off on 3, then on 9. So basically, you test to see if that 1,000,005 is a perfect square. If it's not, the light bulb's off. So basically, doing that class taught me something was missing from my job in finance. Yeah.
Can I go on a math rant?
Sure, yeah.
Math is fascinating.
I agree.
It really kind of blows my mind. I just said this. I said this on the last podcast I recorded. So for those listening, it will be repetition. Are you familiar with like Plato's World of Forms?
No.
Okay, so this is an interesting question. Do you believe that math was discovered or created?
Why are those the only options?
Oh, you could come up with another option. It's not a trick question. I'm just curious.
It's like asking if flight was discovered or created.
Isn't that interesting?
It already existed, right? And it was always around us.
It's just like realized.
It's just observed.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, so like language, I would say language is created, right? It's a human, like we're putting words to things. Like that's the idea. So like the language of math, yeah, like we created that, but the observation of certain like realities of math, like the rules of math, like just Pythagorean theorem, for example, like that is always true, you know? Like we've put words to it. So like the words that we use for math that was created obviously, but like we, in a sense, like what Plato argued, and there are people that argue against this, but one of the things that Plato argued was that math was discovered. Like it always existed. We happened upon it. Like these rules of mathematics, like they were always there. Yeah. And I don't know if he uses this as a proof or if this was just maybe like one of the offshoots of his point that he makes. And I don't know what he believed about this thing called the world of forms, but he basically believed that, look, math is this totally abstract thing, right? Like it's completely abstract. You can't see it. Like you could prove it. You could observe it. You know it's real because we're creatures of such a high intellect that we could observe this abstract reality. called, this thing called math.
Mhm.
So he believed that there was this realm, a dimension, maybe you could call it, where like the perfect form of things existed, called the world of forms. And so everything that we have in our life is somehow a combination of this like abstract ideal and matter. And it's like combined to have a reality that we do.
So you're saying we're not living in that world of forms?
No. Yeah, but he believed that perfection exists in that world of forms.
Who says we don't live in a perfect world?
I don't know. It's like perfect could mean different things for different people. I think it is perfect for what it is, Like,
I say it's pretty perfect.
yeah. I'd love to hear more about your philosophy and like why you feel like the world is perfect, because that's an interesting take. I think I personally would agree, not necessarily that it's perfect, but that it's a lot of good and very beautiful. And I think others would have a lot of negative to say about it. So I'm curious to hear from you.
Well, I'd say that it's perfect if you believe it's perfect. And it's, it isn't if you don't believe it is. Just the way it works. Like, the way it's, well, you can mention math is an amazing thing, but if you zoom out or zoom in to anything, it's like, damn, maybe on the surface, maybe like mid-range, when you're adjusting the focus of your camera, you don't really notice how perfect it is when you really, really zoom in. Like, for example, if you look at atoms,
Yeah,
versus looking at the stars, they both just blow your mind, right? And then if you zoom out a little bit and like from the atomic view, you look at just the way the world works, the fact that we feel emotions, that we feel hate and love, and anger, and that every day is a new day, and everything that we've created as as a society, that we're able to benefit from everything. How we can all feel important, how everything seems important to us, and I don't know. There's just a lot of beauty, and it wouldn't be as awesome if we didn't feel pain once in a while. Like, imagine, I don't know, anything. Imagine just having euphoria permanently. I don't know if that's a good life, right?
When I was on ayahuasca, I was there like low key. It really was this euphoric kind of. What had appeared to me was it's complicated to describe the scene. It was kind of like I was under this cosmic tree or something, and I was in complete bliss and nirvana, and I knew completely. I was like, I'll come back here in between lives and spend some time here, and it's great. But like, it's just more fun to come back to life, and live a life, get your heart broken, hold a child, fail at something or succeed. Like, it's beautiful. It's interesting,
And there's no reset button. And that's kind of what makes it awesome. That you have, I mean, there is in some ways a reset where you can fail and try again, whatever it is. But in terms of your life itself, we don't know if there's an afterlife. I mean, some of you might believe there is one, and I can't prove there is or there isn't one. But Um, yeah, there's no reset button, so it's just awesome that everyone does this journey differently.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people like doing it the same way. They all having the same wedding. They all go for dentistry at NYU, which, by the way, is too expensive. So don't go there if you're watching this, and don't let your friends go there. That's a good segue, by the way.
No, dude. I want to. We left a few open ends. Sorry.
Yeah, let's close them.
All right, yeah. You find the world. I don't even know which one to close first. The pickling thing maybe is like.
All right, so let me finish that that part. So, like I said, there's 4 things you have to have: money. You have to be good at it. You have to have fun, and it should be meaningful.
Right.
So far, I knew I was good at it, and I was having fun. So those 2 knocked out. Question is, how do I get to it being something that I can make money off of, and it being meaningful, right? Those are the big ones. Because without those, I'm not quitting my job.
Gotcha.
Right. So I was in Peru with this hat right here. And I was hiking Machu Picchu. And after hiking that for 5 days, I had a free week left. I didn't know what to do. And these 2 French girls that were hiking with me in Machu Picchu that I bumped into a couple times, they're like, "Hey, Eddie, we're going to a canyon called Colca Canyon. If you want, come join us. It's going to be for a couple of days." I was like, "I don't want to go to canyon. I want to go to the rainforest." But it turns out I need to get vaccinated for yellow fever or something like that. And by the time for the vaccine would come into effect, it would take at least a month. And I only had another week in Peru. So I was like, you know what? I have no other choice. I was already altitude sick. So I was like, maybe a canyon is a good idea. I went in this canyon, which I didn't want to go into, with these girls I didn't really know. I never even heard of this canyon before. So we're hiking down it. It is beautiful. We get lost a few times, but it's beautiful. And we get to the bottom of this canyon. There's an oasis. There's a pool. There's palm trees. There's a place for us to rest. It's amazing. There's a little river going through it. But that's not where we're staying. We're going to stay at another oasis, which is along this river. And we're going through it. We're hiking across down this river, miles. And just as the sun is setting, we're lost, but we're just when the sun sets early in canyons and mountainous areas because it's blocked. So like if you're not where you need to be, there was spiders this big.
Oh my God.
We were walking into a massive spider web.
Oh God.
The sun is setting. We're like, holy cow. Like if we don't find a place, that spider can be crawling on us, right? Like, so we were like really motivated to find this oasis. We found a deserted town. We're like, this can't be it, right? Kept going. And just as the sun was setting, the last crack of light, we found the place. And we were like, we'll leave. We found, we put our clothes into this room. We had our own room, a couple of rooms actually. So I was separate from the girls. Yep. And this was a nice lady. I think her name was Gloria. And
shout out Gloria if you're watching this.
Yeah, shout out Gloria. She's not watching this. They don't have any roads in this canyon.
Oh wow!
Just little paths for donkeys to come and bring supplies.
Wow.
So this lady, like, make yourselves at home, get undressed, change your clothes. We're gonna have dinner in like an hour. All right. So we changed, go to sit down for dinner, and there's like a group of like 3 or 4 people playing cards to our right, and there's just a young man and woman to our left. And we ordered food. I ordered an alpaca steak because that's what she was offering. Why
not? Okay.
It was good. It wasn't kosher, but it was good. We decided to talk to the people to our left. And I asked the people to the left, the guy and the girl, and I said, "Hey, where are you guys from?" The woman was from Australia. The guy was from London.
Mm.
The guy from London had an Italian accent. So I said, "What do you do for a living?" He's like, "Oh, I make a gelato." I was like, "Oh, interesting. How long are you on vacation for?" He's like, "1 month." I was like, "Wow. So you guys decided to meet up, go backpacking for a month?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "That's pretty crazy. I work in finance. Most I could take is 2 weeks. So how'd you get into this gelato business?" He's like, "Well, I come from Italy and I know how to make a good gelato. When I come to London, they know good gelato. So I thought maybe I'm going to make a gelato." So he opens up a store. Fast forward to today, or whatever, 5 or 6 years ago, he has 3 gelato spots. He has some partners, and now he can take a vacation for a month.
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, that's kind of crazy because I make really good pickles. And I know I make really good pickles. And I was like, look, I was still doing this for fun on the side. My wait list was growing. It wasn't 15 people anymore. At some point, it was 300.
Really? Damn.
300 or more. No, it was more. It was 600 people.
Wow.
3,000 jars. It was a 6-month wait list at its peak before I opened my store. But I was like, I make really good pickles. And like, this got the juices flowing. I was like, wait.
No pun intended.
Yeah, it literally got the pickle juices flowing. And I was like,
gosh.
This guy is not only taking more vacation time than me, but he's chilling. Just doing something he loves. And I didn't think it was possible with food, right?
Yeah.
So that sparked this desire. So as soon as I got back from Peru, first thing I did was pickle. I was like, all right, let me go back to making pickles because I took a little pause because I was on vacation for 2 weeks. And simultaneously, I remember I was wearing this sombrero when I met the guy, right? So that's part of the reason why it's on the logo. So fast forward, I'm back home making these pickles. And we heard that I have a cousin in Canada. We already knew she was ill, not doing well. She's terminally ill, had brain cancer. And it came out of nowhere, right? So she had when she found out, she had 5 or 6 months left to live. So now fast forward, it's already towards the end of her life. I just got back from Peru. I just made those pickles, and my family's like, listen, her boyfriend proposed to her, just got married to her on her deathbed. She's got another week or so to live. We have to visit again. So I was like, all right, let's go. And I couldn't think of what to bring. But, traditionally, whenever we visit Canada, we bring lipioshki, we bring samsa. I was like, let me bring some pickles that I made, right? And also, for some reason, it was November, and I had a mustache. So I was wearing the sombrero, had a mustache. I didn't change my look at all when I came back from Peru. Everyone's like, Eddie, what's wrong with you? Dress normal. I was like, I don't know. I don't know why, but I feel like I have to dress this way. So I showed up as a family to her. We all took a road trip together. And her name is Nufar, Chaya Nufar. And we're all eating. We're all sitting next to her bed. She had her own private room. And she's like, hey, whose pickles are these? And they're like, oh, it's Eddie's. And so I come over to her side. She's like, Eddie, these pickles. I don't remember the exact words, but I do remember her saying something. And basically she was saying that the pickles made her happy, right? And that they were really good. And I thought to myself, I said, wait, here's a person that's going to die. She ended up passing away the next week. She can eat whatever she wants. She doesn't. Her doctors say you can do whatever you want. There's no point. You're out. And she found joy in food. And it kind of reminded me of that experience I had as a adjunct professor. I was like, wait, I can make the world a better place with food, right? It's one thing if you're making food that's decent, right? Most people just eat food to get by. But when it's really good food, you ever eat something, you're like you just take a moment and you're like, what? Your whole brain gets rewired. You're like, what?
They call that a foodgasm.
Yeah. I felt like I was giving these foodgasms to people. And
with your pickles.
Yeah. And I was like, on a deeper level, I was like, this is a sign. Like, this is her giving me a blessing. If there's some good that comes out of this terrible situation that she's in, let it be that she was the push to make, my pickles into a reality.
Wow.
Right? So I was like in the zone after that. I was like just sit.
Can I ask you,
Yeah.
how do you hold on to that, to the zone? I feel like inspiration comes and goes, and it's like, it sounds like you really jumped on it and took it and made something real out of it. I love this success story, and it's heartwarming. And I'm curious, like, do you have any insight maybe? Like, how'd you hold on to it?
Well, first of all, wear the hat every day, you know?
Wow.
So that's a good reminder, because I shouldn't be wearing a hat. I'm a single 32-year-old man. You know, I have hair. I don't have to wear a hat. And,
maybe I should get a hat, honestly.
Yeah, my dad's always like, "Ты чё это одеваешь? Ты придурок," you know?
Dude, it's good marketing, though.
It's good marketing, but at the same time, it's like, I'm wearing it for a reason, right? Like, my goal is to make this a global brand that makes people happy, and also spreads awareness about Bukharians, makes people proud about our community.
I love that.
And, obviously I would love to make money from it, enrich my family, leave a good legacy. And when I'm ready to switch to another thing, I'm not, people that know me well know that I'm not just about pickles. So that's one way of holding on to this focus. Obviously there are many days where you just want to relax and, just chill. But when you really, really, really love something, when you're really passionate about something, it's hard for it to leave. Like, when I go out, I always have a jar of pickles with me, because I know that I can make someone happy, right? It's
wow.
It's one of those few things that everyone understands it. Like, when I was in finance, I couldn't describe what I did to 95%, 99% of people. I don't even want to describe it on this podcast, because most people would fall asleep. But or if you're a consultant, or if even people that work in OT and PT, right? There's certain jobs that are simple. Being a doctor, being a dentist, being a pharmacist, being a nurse, a person that makes pizza. Those are very simple. Firefighters, police officers. Those are simple jobs. You can talk about it with people. Pickles is also one of them, right? Grandmothers love them. Babies love them. And everyone in between. So that's why it's a very easy thing to just always be consumed in. Every conversation is a marketing opportunity. Like this conversation, I don't mind having my pickles in front, because if I was a consultant, it would be weird. If I was a lawyer, having my logo,
like your business card.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same as having a juicy, sweet pickle or a pickle potion.
You can only imagine what it's like, and then go to your Edik store or supermarkets. Which supermarkets do you sell?
There's about 50, maybe a little bit more now. Yeah. Mostly kosher supermarkets. We have some non-kosher ones, but mostly kosher. It's the majority. There's about 50 something. It might hit 60 actually.
Wow.
Might hit 60. I know. There's a few stores that I'm in right now that I don't know which ones they are, because I have like this third party selling it for me.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Can we talk about the Bukharian community?
Yeah, of course.
Actually, before we go there, the number one question people on this group chat that we both happen to be a part of, they wanted to know why you're not married.
Shout out to Sarah Burkhoff for asking that question. I'd say there's an analogy I came up with recently. I don't know if I should say it, but it's basically.
Listen, I mean, you're the biggest pickle guy in the Jewish community. 1 second, I have to. Dude, I mean, you're the biggest pickle guy in the Jewish community. So
yeah, so
you would assume.
Well, there's first of all, there's certain qualities in our community that set it apart from the average Jewish community, right? So first of all, Bukharians tend to get married very young, right? The average Jewish person probably gets married 26, 27. Bukharians tend to get married early 20s, sometimes late teens, right? I've been to a lot of those young weddings. May they all work out. But
Yeah.
I was never in a rush to get married. My goal up until the age of 27 was to travel. Right? Like
I respect that.
I was my initial goal was to work in finance, save up enough money, and travel the world for a year.
Fascinating.
That's what I was gonna do.
Yeah.
Shout out to the world. I was gonna do that, and when I gave my first resignation to quit, I did it because I knew I was gonna make Pickles eventually. But I was like, I told my bosses, I'm like, guys, I'm taking a year off to travel and do art simultaneously. I was confident. I'm still confident that if I did, it would have worked.
Dude, I'd actually love to see your art.
Yeah, I would have loved to see it too. But basically what ended up happening is when I gave that resignation, that same week, COVID hit the United States.
Oh my God, you're kidding me.
Every border started closing. So very quickly, I had to rescind my resignation. Thankfully, my bosses were cool with that. I gave a 1 month notice, and they were really they took me back with open arms. They said, Eddie, you're welcome to stay as long as you want, and when you're ready to go, go for it. We love you. And that's what I did. I stayed another 9 months, and I ended up leaving to start the pickle business instead of traveling. But prior to that, I wasn't in a position where I wanted to settle down, because why would you want to marry someone before you travel the world for a year?
Of course, yeah.
Anyone that does solo travel knows, when you're with someone else, it's restrictive, right? It's very complicated.
100%.
To, even if the person's a perfect travel partner, it complicates things. Especially my goal was to paint one person per day for 365 days.
Oh, wow.
Let them keep the drawing and have my art all over the world, make a blog about it, have like a, Instagram page or whatever it was.
Dude, that's a lot of work.
Well, it's not work if you're traveling 365 days. All you got to do is paint.
No, and then you got to film it.
No, you don't really have to film it. Back then it was just photos, right?
Photos.
So eventually, like this before Instagram Reels were a thing. And I think TikTok was just getting started. But that was the initial goal. So like once that goal went out the window, I was like, oh, wait, now I should focus on, maybe finding a life partner. And I,
So why did that goal go out the window?
to travel.
Yeah.
Because now I'm tied with the pickle business. It's not currently. It's not feasible. If, for example, the business grows really well, and let's say in a few years I decide to sell it to like some food company, and I have freedom and I'm single or something like that, then maybe I'll do it again.
Right.
And if not, I'll do it with a partner.
Take the restrictions on.
Yeah.
I solo traveled in Israel for like 6 weeks, almost 2 months basically. And then I was planning a big Euro trip for 2 months, and then I got married.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't do it in the end. I don't regret it, but I wish I had that opportunity to do it.
Yeah. So that's the main reason why I didn't do my early 20s. Also, my parents are separated, so I wasn't, and they separated right when I was 18. So usually parents are hounding you from both sides. Get married, get married, get married, get married. My parents were going through their own difficult divorce. So instead of seeing people say, get married, get married, get married, I'm more getting the message, don't get married or else you can have a bad relationship and your life can, really be terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm a very cautious person when it comes to dating.
Yeah.
So yeah, since then, I've been going on quite a few dates. And have I found the right one? I don't think so. So
it's still a journey. Ladies, he's out there single.
Yeah. So the analogy I wanted to say was that spending some time with someone that I know. I'm not going to be too specific. Someone I'm related to, and we were on vacation recently, and this person is older than me, about 30, mid-30s. And we were looking for coffee. We're looking for breakfast. So the first day we're on this vacation, looking for breakfast, and I get the simple stuff: coffee, milk, hot, no sugar.
Mhm.
And she asked for almond milk macchiato iced.
Mhm.
I was like, what is that? Right? What's a macchiato? Why does it have to have almond milk? Why does it have to be iced?
Okay.
They didn't have it. So they gave her something else. She took a sip, couldn't drink it. Left the rest of the coffee untouched. Wasn't happy. And then the next day, so the whole day went without coffee. The next day, same thing. You go to another place, didn't have an iced macchiato with almond milk. Another. Third day, finally, she was able to drink coffee because she found a place that had iced macchiato with almond milk.
Okay.
That's what it's like being mid-30s and single. Your tastes become so specific because they're shaped by your past experiences. When you're 16, trying coffee for the first time, holy cow, this is amazing, right? This is crazy shit, right? Once you're 34, you can't drink coffee with milk that's hot. Psh, peasant, right? You need iced macchiato with almond milk. That's why it gets harder to date, because you are so particular with what you want. You've been chiseled. This marble, it's a marble that gets chiseled.
Yeah.
My opinion is, in order for that to change,
It sounds like it chisels you into a Karen.
it's not that it chisels you into a Karen. I mean, kind of, yeah.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, but like, and the person, I love this person, but it's what my advice to anyone that feels like they've become very particular with their taste. And usually their taste is normal things. They want someone that's honest, attractive, a real man if it's a female, or a straight female. They want someone that's, ideally tall, doesn't have to, many people say that it doesn't have to be good looking. But these things are basic needs, right? Like that most people want, but they get turned off by too many things. There's too many red flags as you get older. When you're young, there are no such things as red flags. You'll just date anyone that likes you back, that you find slightly attractive for some reason. Like the first girl that I ever liked was, not like prior to.
No offense if you're listening.
Prior to elementary school, I liked this girl named Heather in kindergarten. But there's, like the first few people that I liked were just atrocious looking back, like not compatible at all, And that's why a lot of the marriages that are really young, that aren't influenced by the parents, don't work out. Yeah.
I don't know. Are there statistics on that?
What? That
on
youth marriage?
Like young marriages versus...
No, I'm saying, I'm not saying that youth marriages don't work out. I'm saying if they're not influenced by the parents.
If they're not influenced by the parents.
Yeah, because usually parents have more wisdom when it comes to marriage than kids do. And when parents want someone to get married, it's because they want that person to marry that family. And when you have families with compatible values, eventually the two young people will grow to love each other. Yeah. And it's like a Jewish definition of love.
No, I get that actually. When you're saying young, just to clarify, you don't mean like 16. You mean like 20 something.
18 through 21, 22. Usually the people haven't spent enough time with each other. They don't even know who they are.
Right.
Like, did you know who you were when you were 18, 19?
I have evolved in so many ways. I would say I knew who I was then, and I'm a different person now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but definitely.
You know what Socrates says, though?
What?
To know thyself, think for thyself.
Yeah, no one's thinking for themselves when they're 18, 19.
It depends on the kid. But yeah, you're right. You're right. Most of us were taught throughout school to just, accept whatever we're taught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so why am I single?
I think, though. Yeah, why are you single? No, but I think, though, that's an interesting point, like, about the kids. Kids are not thinking for themselves. And it's like that just gets stomped out. Yeah, why aren't you married? Let's go back to that. That sounds interesting.
I don't know. It's also it's an interesting phenomenon that when I was young, I thought that improving myself in every single way I can would help me become help me find a match better, like a
Right.
better match.
If you would improve yourself in every
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is something that I focused on so much, right, as a kid. Like, make sure I'm talented, make sure I'm intelligent, make sure I have, a good job and
So that you
successful.
could get married.
Yeah. But then I was like, wait, I don't like anyone now. Because now I don't.
You've outgrown.
Yeah, like, I think that's
Yeah.
an experience that a lot of these iced latte macchiato with almond milk people experiences, that they've grown so much that they look at the rest of the community and like, I can't date the scraps that are left,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like,
I feel you.
you have, this is very, very true for, let's say, the women in our community that are very successful and in their 30s. Very hard for them to date, because any girl that's right now in their 30s or even late 20s that's a professional will find that the guys that are older than them are typically very old school, because more likely than not, they were born in the Soviet Union. They have old school values, more likely than not. And typically they don't have prestigious jobs, but a lot of these girls do. So like, a lot of them are some form of doctor or professional. And most guys that are still not married, or are divorced, most Bukharian guys that are in their mid-30s or above are not educated, right? Or a lot of them have this hustler, blatnoy attitude.
Let's talk about this, and I want to ask you maybe more broadly. We were both on Slocky Still episode. Shout out to Slocky Still. By the way, everyone should check out both of our episodes. And hi, Sarah.
Yeah. It's a great podcast.
Great podcast, guys. If you're Bukharian, and even if you're not Bukharian, go check it out. Anyways, yeah, we were both on our episodes talking about the Bukharian community, and I think, different angles. I was talking about mental health in the Bukharian community. You were talking about, unconventional jobs, I guess you could say. And I think maybe like where I want to ask you first, because we've talked a little bit about this and I really want to understand your view more, is the perception of the Bukharian community. Like, I think a lot of people have a very negative perception, unfortunately. And to me, I think it's totally unbased and untrue and comes from a place of racism and hate that's unfound. Like, obviously we have people that are not good people that are also in our community, but so does every other community, and like, we get pinned for it. Like, imagine if we just walked around saying like, oh, all Ashkenazim are just like Ponzi schemers, and like, like, it's screwed up to say something like that. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on like the Bukharian community and maybe talking about like this perception of what the people are like.
Yeah, so there's definitely a stereotype, and for the most part, I'd say, it's a good barometer. It's the word that, if you were to look up this word in the dictionary, you would think to yourself, that's a Bukharian, right? It's the word is grifter.
Okay.
Grifting. So it's the type of person, I'll let you look it up, but to paraphrase the definition, it's a person that, instead of adding value to society, it's someone that takes value from other people, right? And what do I mean by that is, and I'm not saying Bukharians are like this, but many of them are, where instead of trying to make the world a better place or contributing to society, many of us are involved in tax evasion, cash advance, lending practices where, we try to screw people over. So many people are not paying taxes. At the same time, they're still donating a lot of money to tzedakah and to yeshiva, and to the local synagogues. But at the same time, they're not doing this societal obligation of donating taxes for the betterment of the United States or their local government. And that is not something specific to Bukharians. That's specific to most people that are first generation in America. if you, it's funny because I was watching a documentary on Donald Trump yesterday. I don't know what it was called, but my cousin was playing it, and it talked about Donald Trump's grandfather, how he was kind of like a grifter. He was I think, German immigrant, and that's so it's not something that's specific to Bukharians. Every group has it to a certain extent. The only difference is the Ashkenazi aren't here first generation. The Persians aren't here first generation. I mean, they don't have a great reputation either, but they're not here first generation. Syrians aren't here first generation. So by being a first generation community, we're by definition grifters, right? We have to find a way to succeed, right? We have to find a way to pay yeshiva if you want to be more religious. So maybe you'll grift a little bit more if you have to afford that. You have to find a way to pay for your really youthful marriage. So why not do cash advance and drive a really expensive car to attract a beautiful 18-year-old Bukharian girl and that has no identity yet. So it's something that's normal.
Yeah.
And it'll go away with time.
I hear you, and I want to kind of fold it into what I think and what I believe. I definitely get like the grifting vibe in the Bukharian community of like trying to find shortcuts, and when you said that, what just like hit me was how I would like cheat through school at certain times because I didn't study or I didn't care, whatever. I would just like cheat randomly. I think I caught a few times, but whatever. Still worth it.
No fault insurance is another one.
I don't know about that. Yeah. But it's hard for me to like sit here and totally agree with what you're saying when it's like, I think about my parents and like how hard they worked. My dad's a mechanical engineer. My mom was a nurse, like going through that, you know what I'm saying? Like the putting us through school and everything. And yeah, I don't know. It's just like meaning, and I think about some of my friends that are working really hard to do really cool and interesting things like nursing, computer programming, and all sorts of professions. It's just hard for me to really like hear you say the grifting thing and fully like agree with it. I get that that's a stereotype. I think that is true, but
when did your family come here?
My family, the late 80s, like 89 maybe.
Okay, so they've been here for a while.
Yeah.
So you said your father's a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
That's not normal for Bukharian.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I don't know, but his father was a professor.
Okay, so it's different.
Yeah.
So your family is a little bit different. But for the most part, most Bukharians don't have a professor in their family, don't have a father that's a mechanical engineer. Do we all have a mom that's a nurse? So like 90% of us, yeah.
Like 90%.
Because most of us, that's the profession that gave you first small amount of education. Back then it was 2 years.
Yeah.
Or less. And you would get insurance, you would get great pay, you can buy a house with that salary. The husband would work on 47th Street or as a barber, make cash, didn't pay taxes. That's the typical Bukharian stereotype. Husband in 47th Street or a barber, wife is a nurse. Thankfully, we've, as the next generation is eclipsing the previous one. And I'm not saying those guys didn't work hard. Our parents worked their asses off. Because that's what's normal.
Yeah.
That's typical of every first generation community. Now is the time for us to start thinking further. How do we get to the next level?
So that's an interesting topic point, and I really want to talk about that. And what's interesting is like, sorry, by the way, how are we doing on time?
We're good.
We're good.
1 hour, 16 minutes.
Nice. Yeah, that's an interesting point. How do we move onto the next level in the next generation? And it's funny, I also said this in the last podcast, but like, I was on a different lady's podcast and she was talking about dating with me. And as I was talking to her about my process, my experience in the shidduch system, and I'm explaining the whole thing to her and what's going on. And she tells me, I don't remember the exact context, but she tells me something like, or the most normal Bukharian I've spoken to or something. something like that along those lines. And I told her, I was like, that's so racist. You're like, how do you just say that? That's so crazy.
It's like, imagine saying to someone, you're the most normal black person.
Literally.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I want to be honest and real about the issues going on in our community, but at the same time, I hear that like Bukharians just looking for shortcuts or just like these kind of negative stereotypes so often, it really rubs me the wrong way. And I think why it maybe rubs me the wrong way is because I used to really buy into it and maybe be embarrassed. And it's like now that I reflect on it and I realize I was held back so much from my life, right? Because of these stereotypes that aren't even true and definitely don't apply to me. You know what I mean? And it really irks me. It's like something I want to do about it. But then I also want to be honest and be like, listen, where's our community at? Are we still thinking along these lines of like looking for shortcuts because our parents and grandparents were raised in a community where you had to? Otherwise, you'd be waiting in line for bread and might not have food when you come home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're obviously different, right? Like, for example, I've been on dates with a lot of non-Bukharians and, dating app culture. And sometimes when I tell a girl that I'm Bukharian, say, I'm sorry, I can't date you, right? Like, Bukharians have a bad reputation in dating.
Right.
For example, some people believe that a Bukharian would never marry a non-Bukharian. Like, they'll lead you on,
Right.
and then they'll just cold turkey fall in love with a Bukharian girl that their parents recommend, and that's it, get married. You're obviously different. You didn't marry a Bukharian person.
Right.
So obviously stereotypes are exactly what they are. They're stereotypes. So they mislead people, but not always, right? I know personally Bukharians that are exactly the stereotype.
No,
like
for sure.
Textbook.
Yeah.
Bukharian, when people have a stereotype, I know exactly what
It's
they're
that
talking
guy.
about.
Right. Yes.
It's like 100 people. I personally know, right?
No, I agree.
So I like to think of Bukharians in terms of two types. There's the blot noise and there's the non-blot noise. Right? So the stereotypical Bukharian is the blot noise. No one likes the blot noise. Unless they're your cousin. Then they're fun, good to hang out with. Yeah. So many funny stories. When you're young, they're really cool to hang out with. Then there's the not blot noise. These are the people like me and you, I'd say, that want to drive change, that want to advance our community, that want to uplift each other, that don't want to take shortcuts, that want to make the world a better place. But there's, to the outsider, how can you tell the difference between a Blatnoy and a non-Blatnoy Bukharian? They look the same, they smell the same. Actually, no, the cologne's different. But basically the barometer is the loudness of their muffler on their car. No, I'm kidding.
I drive a Tesla, so there's no muffler.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but seriously though, this is maybe like what I'd ask you. I think the perception from the outside world of what the black noise would make up in the Bukharian community is something like 80%. You know what I mean? And maybe I'm wrong about that.
I would say the stereotype is 95%. Like
in reality, you think the stereotype?
No, in reality, it's the thing is, it's hard to measure because so many Bukharians don't want to identify with being Bukharian, and part of the reason is we don't have a flag, and it's too complicated saying that we're Central Asian Jews from Uzbekistan. No one knows what Uzbekistan is.
Bro, we need a flag.
I've been thinking about designing a flag.
How is this the first time this has come to my attention that we need a flag?
Yeah, we need a flag.
Bro, we absolutely need a flag.
Like, for example, whenever there's some kind of video on Instagram and it's Armenia, an Armenian people, you'll notice that right away they'll comment Armenian flag. Or if there's something Jewish, Israeli flag. Something Palestinian flag. Something Jewish, Palestinian flag. But with Bukharians, we don't have a flag. We don't have a sense of identity. Everyone loves the food, but not too much of it because we get fat because of it. It's hard for many people to be proud of that community. So we don't talk about it. So we don't know. Like, I personally know so many, I have so many family members that don't associate with Bukharian community. Like, they just, I don't like Bukharians. The problem is, or like the beauty of it is, all these people that don't like Bukharians, they get along so well with each other. So like, if I'm a Bukharian that doesn't like Bukharians, the Blatnoy ones, and this other person doesn't like Bukharians, the Blatnoy ones, those two people, when they hang out, they vibe. They love each other. Right. right? So the secret is, if you want Bukharians to be proud of Bukharian, filter out the blunt noise, and you take the non-blunt noise, and you make them friends.
Yeah, I hear you.
The earth is round.
Right.
So while you have all these blunt noise in one place, all the non-blunt noise are trying to leave.
Right.
Hopefully they find each other.
Right. I feel you. I was maybe being a little optimistic. You're right. I think after you said it, I think the perception is people that know Bukharians that have heard of it. You're right. It's probably like 95%. I think it's like blunt noise.
Those are the loudest ones.
Yeah, but that's what's crazy to me because my experience has been these people that you're talking about that are these stereotypes. That of course I know people like this. They're like, I don't know, 1 in 100. You know,
I want to say 1 in 100. I'd say I remember there's a female version of it too. I'd say maybe like 1 in 5.
It's like 20%. 5%.
And there's the neutral people, and then there's the ones that are like awesome.
Interesting.
Right? Like awesome Bukharians. And there's a lot of us. Just since we're all trying to reach out and leave the community, lots of intermarriage, lots of, not saying anything against you, right? Because, you found your basher.
No, dude, I've converted my wife. She's all on Bukharian now.
Nice.
I've taught her all the important words.
Like
nahoy and
that's a Russian word.
Yeah,
the real important word is rahmat.
Rahmat, yeah.
Rahmat kalon.
Yeah. No, I started with the Russian words.
Koporoshua.
Yeah. Zatknis is like our favorite new word, honestly. Just like yell it at people sometimes.
Kungi nafasya.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely a way of making people proud of being Bukharian.
Dude, yes. How do we do this? I'm actually so curious. I think one of the biggest reasons that I'm such a big fan of Sarah, as soon as I found out about Sarah's Slocky Stole thing, I had to have her on the podcast. I had to collaborate with her because I was like, I think what she's doing, it's going to sound so crazy, but it's like, I think what she's doing is almost as important as like the religious community. You know what I mean? I think it gathers people. It gives people a sense of identities, a conversation to talk about. Let's center ourselves. Like, where are we? Yeah. Let's talk about the important issues.
She's putting a voice on to the people that are on the fringes of our community.
Right. And not just the fringes, even non-fringes, and like really bringing out the real issues. Like, let's talk about it as a community. And it's so amazing. And it's like, even when she's done some controversial stuff which obviously I'm sure, I don't necessarily agree with it. Others don't agree with it. I've really like defended her. I've lost a couple of followers over it, and I don't have a lot. So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've communicated that it's like, hey, it doesn't hurt to give people a voice and to talk and understand where they're coming from. Like, that is a good thing. Even if you disagree with them, hear them. You know?
And she's really good at video editing.
She's so freaking good.
And she's a prodigy. So
yeah.
Sarah, if you're listening to this, you're getting really far. We're all proud of you.
Yeah.
Malades. Malades. So yeah, no, it's good to give those voices. And like I said, if you can make people proud of being Bukharian, that's the first step, right? So like literally on every single larger pickle jar, not on this one, but on the larger pickle jars, every single one says proudly Bukharian.
I love that so much.
So it's a very, very important concept to me to change the perception that we have of ourselves, right? If you can have the young people love my pickles and then they say proudly Bukharian, just plant a seed, right? And hopefully that seed grows to something where, maybe they also want to contribute, like yourself, like Sarah, like myself, to making us more proud of being part of this community, which is such a miracle.
It is.
The fact that it survived through being so isolated, the fact that we have such a history, like, for example, I speak English. I actually speak Spanish too. My parents speak Russian. Their parents.
Wait, you don't speak Russian?
I speak Russian, but they spoke Russian, right? Like, I'm not fluent in it.
I lost it too.
And their grandparents spoke Bukharian, and my great grandparents spoke Hebrew. Or at least, they studied the Torah a lot. They were really religious. And go back a few generations, we were speaking Ladino, right?
Your family's from Spain?
There's apparently my family says that. So part of my family is not Bukharian or Persian, Afghan, and that portion of the family were like merchants, and they were doing a lot of trade. And supposedly, there's one of our family members has like some documents of them writing in like a Latin type of Hebrew. It's weird.
Interesting.
I gotta figure out more about that. But what's interesting is that we have every generation changes languages and location in a way, right? At least from my Persian side. And the question is, what are my children going to be speaking? Where are we going to be? And it's really something to go through all these generations and still be here, still be unique. And for people to take that for granted and say, I don't want to be Bukharian. Like, do you have any idea what we went through? Right? It's like one thing to be Jewish, but like to be Bukharian is such a niche type of Jew.
Yeah.
Same way of you being a Yemenite Jew or like any type of Jew, right? It's so Ashkis have this. They went through the Holocaust, most of them, right? The ones that lived in Russia went through the pogroms, or the ones in Ukraine. The ones that lived in Spain or Morocco. Every Jewish community went through some crazy shit, especially the Bukharians, and take all that rich history and culture and say that you no longer want to associate with it only because of a few blatnois that make you not like it, or only because the recent phenomenon is that everyone likes an overpriced wedding, right? That's not a good enough reason, right? You can be a different type of Bukharian. Yeah. There's not a one size fits all. There's a different flavor, different essence of Bukharian. The same way there's different ways of making baksh, right? It can be the baksh that has basil in it.
Hey, the thing is, I love what you're saying so much, and really, I want to come up with something concrete. Like, how do we reclaim what it means to be Bukharian and define it on our own terms, not to let, I think what has happened, which is I think the way society defines it for us. It's so beautiful, man. The food is amazing. The pickles are fucking great.
Thank you. Yeah.
The music.
It's not something that changes overnight. You can't just say, okay, here's a switch, 50 switches.
Right.
There's 50 switches. Yeah, exactly. Do the Bukharians love being Bukharian after this all or not?
Yeah.
Bukharians, it'll take time.
It doesn't. You're right. It doesn't happen overnight. But honestly, if you're listening out here, I don't know what should I ask them to comment. What's your favorite part about being Bukharian?
Yeah, and if you can think of a way if you can find a way to contribute to Bukharians gathering that doesn't revolve around food, doesn't revolve around getting fat, doesn't revolve around weddings or brisses, just not even around alcohol, just finding ways for your local friends to hang out and do things. That's how you start, by making Bukharians proud. Another thing is me and Sarah from Slatki Stol and the people on my podcast, on that podcast episode, I don't have my own podcast. We started a thing where there's a mentorship program. I saw you sign up for it.
Right.
So that's another thing. How do we make it so that we're like, wow, that Bukharians are cool?
Yeah.
Right. One way is having this mentorship program where we have over 130 people signed up that are either people that want to mentor others, have phone calls, or people that need a mentor or someone to speak to. So if you're in high school and you're not sure if you want to be an architect or a nurse, you'll find on this spreadsheet architects, nurses, doctors, lawyers that are willing to have a phone call with you and give you advice. And it's free. And like, for example, when we think about what makes us a little bit jealous about Persian people community, first thought is, wow, they have a great community in Great Neck, right? They have nice big houses. They're established. They have plenty of money. They seem to be well off, right? Things are going well for them. They own a lot of property. They're just collecting rent, just chilling, right? When you think about the Syrian community, you think, man, they all have a house in Deal, New Jersey during the summer. They're all partying every summer. They're all good looking. They shop at the best places. They figured out a nice middle ground for keeping the religion. Yeah, maybe that's a cool thing about being Syrian, right? But they're very closed off. Same thing with Persians, closed off. They don't want to marry other people. Ashkenazi people, right? Like certain types of Ashkenaz are very intelligent. They go away for college. They do fun things. They're just American. They eat bacon, egg, and cheese. They like chicken parm, right? When they're not religious. And maybe that's a cool thing about being Ashki. A lot of them are liberal, right? But what makes the Bukharian community special, right? And I don't think we have that edge yet. Right? Like what? And one thing it could be is that we have a very tight-knit community that supports each other. We're very advanced. Like we try pursuing unique fields. We're very entrepreneurial, right? We're the best looking ones or whatever you want to call it.
We're definitely the best. Yeah,
So like there has to be an edge that you can work on, and it really does take the power of just one person. You can really make a change in your community. Sarah's doing a great job. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, man.
I think I'm doing a pretty good job making people like the pickles and the content I release.
Yeah. I'm going to do Proudly Bukharian on like my thumbnail or something.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I got to figure it out where I'm going to do it.
I'll have to send you a cease and desist because it's trademarked. No, I'm kidding.
That'd be so funny.
Nah, I should actually trademark that. No, I'm kidding.
Nah, dude,
you can use it. Sorry. Yeah, you can use it. If you're Proudly Bukharian, you could put it everywhere.
Yeah.
Just tag me.
Nice, yeah. Eddie, I mean, I want to kind of wrap up soon, but I don't think you finished your thoughts on why the world is perfect.
I don't think I ever will.
It's a good conversation. I mean, one of the things that I think, and what do I really know, but I think a lot of people struggle with is this problem of evil, of like, why would there be bad things in the world if the world is like perfect or loving, if like, why would God do that to people? I don't know if you have, I'm wondering, I'm assuming you did think about it because like you kind of said with a lot of confidence that like, if you look at it, if you kind of zoom in or zoom out, you recognize how perfect the world is. And honestly, it's so true. Like, there's this meme, it comes up on my Instagram every once in a while about like, you're here worrying about taxes and whatever. And it's like a picture of the earth, know? It's such a true point. Like, and I always forget that. It's like, dude, like, I don't know. This whole life thing is a miracle and a ride. So it's like, it's easy for me to say because I don't have problems that are that deep, but I'd imagine somebody that does, it's harder for them to see that and say that.
Like people starving in Africa or people just being homeless and what you'll notice, apart from losing a family member and heartbreak, those gruesome feelings are, obviously they're terrible, right? That's when you start losing faith sometimes. When you have just death of someone you love, like with my cousin, Chaya Nufar, her family just devastated, like why such a perfect person? Why would she go, right? Her boyfriend, her husband, devastated, just devastated, right? Many people that experience that kind of terrible experience, they stop believing in God in many cases. Because how can, this is a different conversation, but like many people, you would say, how can a God exist that can do such a thing? But obviously there's different ways of looking at it. Many would say that this is just one part of our life and there's an afterlife or something like that. So it's hard for us to make judgments on pain and suffering. What I've noticed is that people that do survive terrible experiences have a choice where they're able to continue that suffering or put it beneath them, behind them, and overcome it. So I think everyone creates some form of suffering or perceives some sort of form of suffering in their life. Everyone has a spectrum of emotions.
Yeah.
Right. So like, think of it from a mathematical perspective. So everyone knows what the normal curve is, right? Normal curve. Most of things in the normal curve are in the middle. and then on the ends, smaller and smaller percentage. Your emotions are like that, right? You have the center, which is just normal emotion, just chilling. You have moments where you're happy, moments when you're sad or angry. And then you have the extremes when you're extremely happy, euphoric, the day of your wedding, if it's a good one, right? The day of first time you kiss a girl or a guy, if of the opposite sex. The first time you make love, the first time you get high on shrooms, or when you're with your friends, just hanging out, playing video games, euphoric. Hit that note when you're playing the piano, or the worst of times when you just feel like you're failing, when the person you love doesn't love you back, when you witness death, and the October 7th for many of us was just that terrible day, suffering. But it's all part of the spectrum, right? It's just part of life. And many of us, the depressed people, have a skew. Their average isn't normal. Their mean for their normal distribution is sad. Just on a normal day, they're just sad. And rarely they feel a little bit of happiness, but never euphoric happiness. It's always just the curve shift. The question is, how do you change that curve back to normal? And that is perspective. Perspective, because people are so focused on their life, on their little problems, because like you said it, this is the world. It's big, and we're worried about our taxes. This is the world, and we're worried about the death of just one person, right? Obviously that person may have meant the world for you. It's just one person, and there's 7 billion others, right? And it sucks when you detach yourself from too much empathy. When you detach yourself, you might argue that, okay, now you can't feel the best of emotions. Now you're tightening your normal curve so that you don't feel pain, but you don't feel pleasure, right? That's what people do when they close their heart after a heartbreak.
Right.
You don't feel the highest of highs, and you don't feel the lowest of lows. You're just stuck in the middle, right? But it's all about this curve. And I think the world's perfect, because I like to say that my curve is skewed to the positive side.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
And you would say that the trick to skewing it to the positive side is the perspective.
Yeah.
It's so I'm like trying to understand that, and I think it's easier said than done in many ways. And it's like, I think for certain things, it should be pretty easy. Like if you spill something on your shirt or something, okay, it's not a big deal. It could be annoying, but to get that in perspective. But I think sometimes it's like, it's so hard. I'm trying to think of like dark times in my life. Let's say like a heartbreak that I went through. So difficult, so hard to get over. And it's like, it was so funny. Like I would hear some people say sometimes, like, people that were close to me, even like, oh golly, like, okay, it was like a heartbreak, like whatever, get over it. It's okay. Like, there are plenty of fish in the sea, something like that. And it would not help, So I'm wondering if there is something when those times are really tough, when it's not easy to have that type of paradigm shift.
Paradigm shift this time. That's what it does. It every day you start with a new curve. Sometimes it's skewed similar to yesterday, but I'd say it's mean reverting, right?
Yeah.
If you're really good at life, it's not mean reverting; it's up reverting. And if you're a drug addict or an addict of any sort, it's downwards. So every day you're trying to chase that same high, but you'll never reach it. So
that's really brilliant, honestly. I love how you see it with math.
Yeah, everything's math.
Everything's math. Dude, the philosophers, this is something I've been doing with ChatGPT, which I'm obsessed with. ChatGPT has like voice mode. So I'm trying to learn everything with ChatGPT, like literally. So we started with philosophy. That's what we decided we're going to do. So we started with logic, and now we're just learning about the classic philosophers. We've been on Socrates for a while.
Sweet.
Oh, me and ChatGPT.
Okay.
Yeah. So, dude, Socrates just fascinates me. Such an interesting character. But all these philosophers, they were like fascinated by math. Like math was a really big deal for them.
Yeah.
And
That's it's the foundation for everything.
that's like, it's kind of a shame. It's funny. Like I was good at math in elementary school, and then I didn't have a calculator through high school, so I kind of had to like swing that. You know,
I think that would make you a better mathematician.
having a calculator.
Yeah,
But
not having one.
Not having, dude. But some of these formulas are like really complex, and like you'd have to plug them in. You know, I can't remember, but
So you
like
weren't
doing
able to keep
trig.
up.
Yeah, exactly.
I think everyone's good at math. It's just they don't have good math teachers.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's like saying none of us can see. No, it's like saying everyone can see, just they don't have the right glasses. That's what a good math teacher does. It gives you the glasses. The problem is, people that are good at math don't teach math. They work. They make pickles.
It's funny, but you were teaching math, so
Yeah, I did it for a little bit.
dude,
Those
you should do it again. It sounds like it gave you a lot of fulfillment.
I think I'll do it eventually. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Eddie, man, this has been a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Anything else before we tied this up?
Yeah, if you're a dentist, I'm going for dental school at NYU. And I know I've been exhausting this. Many people.
Yeah.
I know this is completely off tangent. It has nothing
Yeah.
to do with this beautiful ending we're just about to have. So you're welcome to cut it out if you want.
No, it's okay.
But many of us say, especially dentists that have already have their own practices, say, "Oh, dental school is never too expensive. You know, just go for it. It's a loan. It's worth it. It's always worth it." Let me ask you: is anyone buying a house these days? No. Why? The interest rates are too high. What are the interest rates at right now? They're about 5-6% for a house. We were comfortable when it was 2%, but now it's 5-6%. It's too expensive, right? What about dental school loans? They're at 9.5%, 10%.
Wow.
So if you're taking out $500,000 in loans, which is what you're going to take out if you start today, at least for NYU Dental, that $500,000 with a 9% interest rate, annual interest rate, comes out to, if you're paying it over 25 years, comes out to $1.25 million in payments. So whatever you were paying, a fraction of that, comes out to over $4,000 a month to pay off your loans for 25 years. $4,500 a month. That means you have to make clean money, at least $100,000 per year just to pay off your loans. So your first $100,000, break even. And not to mention the opportunity cost of going to dental school. So I know it has nothing to do with this podcast, but if you are a dentist or you're trying to persuade your cousin or someone to go for dental school, don't do it. It's too expensive.
Dude, this has everything to do with this podcast.
Everything.
No, honestly, I mean, I love all those concepts. Like, think about your opportunity cost. Think about the investment that you're making. Like, if it's actually worth it.
Yeah,
you know?
There's a lot of ways to make this beautiful life beautiful.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to revolve around making a lot of money at the expense of your freedom. You know, if Gabi had $500,000 in debt, he probably wouldn't be making this podcast right now.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to be able to be free after work to do what you love. It doesn't necessarily mean you need a lot of money. You just need enough money to get by. And the secret to being happy is not getting more. It's wanting less. If you're happy with less, you can find a way to cleanse your desires, whether it's, you know, material desires or pornography or anything that's just excessive. Get rid of it. Drugs, get rid of it. Simplify your life to something where you can enjoy it without an external influence. Part of that has to do with perspective. And once you can find ways to be happy with minimalism, it's called minimalism, then you will open up so many doors to do things that are fun and enjoyable, that aren't tied to being a slave, enslaving yourself to a job that you don't like.
It's funny that you say that because Epictetus was a slave. He was like a OG Stoic philosopher. I can't remember the exact quote, but he says something like the key to happiness is to want less. Something like that.
Yeah. Success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get.
Oh, that was the quote. Right.
Yeah. It's a good one. Yeah. All right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. I mean, I normally end it off with asking if there was anything that you would want everyone to know. If you could yell from the rooftops, what would it be? But I feel like you already went on that monologue.
Oh, yeah, I guess the dental school. Anything that I want people to know, if I could yell it off the roof.
That you would want everyone to know. Like,
who's everyone?
The whole world. What do you feel like everyone should know? I feel like I should come up with a new closing question, honestly. But
all right, no, I think I have something. Something that I think Steve Jobs said. That you will die. This is
end of story.
This is the one chance you have at life. You're already naked. You have nothing to lose. You might as well go for it, right? And I think people don't realize that this is just one opportunity at this life, and some people just want to look at teeth. Some people want to just look at pills for the majority of that life, right? So, do you really?
Dude, that's so deep, and it cuts so deep, honestly, for me too. And it's like, it's one of those things where I love talking about this, and then I try to take a mirror to my own life, and I don't live up to it at all. You know what I mean?
No, you have time.
Yeah.
You have time. You're young.
That's true.
What's important is that you explore and do different things. If you're only doing one thing, if your one thing is your job, then you come home and you have to be with this person you heartily love, and you have no sleep, just kids whining and stuff, and just getting this cycle of hating what you do, hating coming home, hating what you do, hating what that cycle, it breaks people. That's why it's important to make good decisions early on, and be okay with taking some risks in your life. Yeah.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you, Eddie, first of all. This has been an honor to have you.
My pleasure.
And thank you for these pickles.
Oh, they're not for you. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, they're for you. So that's the sweet pickles and the pickle potion. You can get the pickle potion at picklepotion.com. We sell them nationwide.
Yeah.
And that little pickle potion jar is enough to marinate two of these big jars.
Wow.
So basically a 32-ounce jar.
That's awesome.
And it can make a regular pickle. It can make a spicy pickle. It can make a habanero pickle. It can make sweet pickles. It can make jalapenos. It can make pickled tomatoes. Just from that one little pickle potion.
That's pretty cool.
On the pickle potion, there's a QR code. You scan that QR code. It's going to say, "What are you pickling?" on the website, and you can click, "I'm pickling sweet pickles. I'm pickling tomatoes." It's going to give you a step-by-step guide, all the ingredients you need. It's going to give you a video.
A whole video.
Yep. Wow. Everything.
That's incredible.
Super, super fun, easy, delicious product. Picklepotion.com.
That's awesome. Guys, check out Eddie, link in the description, of course. And then send him some love and buy a pickle.
Yep. We also, if you could follow me on Instagram, Uncle_Edix_Pickles.
How do you spell Edix?
ED as in dog, I as in indigo, K as in kite, S as in Sam.
Yeah.
Uncle Edix Pickles.
Wow.
Yep.
Proudly Bukharian.
Proudly born. Yep.
Guys, this has been an incredible episode. Make sure to subscribe and follow and leave a comment about what you can do to get together with your Bukharian friends and talk about reclaiming our identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make the world a better place.
Make the world a better place. Yeah. And think for yourself. Stay curious. And to the rebellion. I always say one other thing, but it's slipping my mind. Oh, yes. You're more capable than you think you are.
And самое главное, чтоб стоял.
Yeah.
That's probably what I would yell from a rooftop.
Yeah.
I've done it before. Yeah.
It's been real, bro. Thanks for coming on.
Oof.
Dude, isn't it like when you're on a trampoline? Thanks, right? You're like on a trampoline and then you get up, how the ground's weird. Oh, I gotta pee. There's a bathroom right behind you.
Oh, that's good. Good stuff.
Oh, wow, 2 hours, bro.